Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey. Welcome back to Loving Me Before I Love You, where we are on Transformation Tuesday. I'm super excited about today's episode as we will be culminating our breast cancer awareness and our domestic violence awareness month. And we are going to be talking about how do we recover, how do we heal from the trauma. Both things are super traumatizing to those that are involved. And we do not want to ever omit from the healing process. And how do we get over and overcome the situation? So, I actually have a friend with me. I have Miss Monique Edwards. She is a licensed professional counselor. We have known each other for years in the professional world of counseling. And we just kind of stay connected through social media, right? But I'm so glad to be reconnected with her on this episode, as I know she's going to bring us a wealth of knowledge and expertise, both personal and professional, because that's how we do over here. We just kind of lay it all bare and help who we can help our listeners. Welcome to the show, Monique.
Thank you so much, Coach Tammy. It is great to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Me too.
So I want you to tell our wonderful listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump into our wonderful topic.
Okay. Well, my name is Monique Edwards. I'm a mom. I'm a breast cancer survivor. And just so you and your audience know, this is my first time ever stating that publicly on a public platform. I've never spoken about it at all. I am also the founder and CEO of Purposely Aligned Counseling and Consulting. And I am an entrepreneur. And I am just a girl in her 50s living her best life.
Hey, that's what we like to do. I feel like I want to be on the thing. Snap, 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 snap.
All right.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I did not know that this is your first time, publicly announcing it, but kudos to you,
Thank
right? Like, I think a lot of times we get freedom sometimes from, doing stuff that we've never done
you. Mhm.
that is not necessarily a secret. It's like, it's not a secret, but
The amazing part is that I had been praying and asking God to tell me when would be the right time. Yeah, the right time to speak about it. Because I knew that when I got the diagnosis and when I went through that journey, that it was for a purpose.
mhm.
And now, and I just got the release today to speak about it, and it's with you.
Oh my goodness. So you about to make me cry. I'm a compose myself, y'all, because doing this podcast thing as a whole has been a real journey for me. And it's been a God journey, to be honest. It's so funny because, people ask me about the podcast, they like, oh, is it a Christian podcast? Da-da-da. And I'm like, no, we talk about self-love for the most part and how self-love affects all areas of our lives.
Yeah.
But I'm a Christian and I don't ever deny my Jesus. So if he pops up on the episode, he just pops up,
Right.
and sometimes I'd be expecting him to show up, but I'm just saying it's not something that I just, I'm out here like, yes, we're going to do the benediction and we're going to,
Right.
invite you to receive Jesus Christ at the end. And who knows, he may transform me and we might be doing that next season.
Mhm.
But every episode has really been Christ led. Like, if I was to really like review all of the episodes, his name is mentioned every time.
Mhm.
And I can't do nothing but be grateful for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
because it tells me who I'm aligned with. It tells me who comes to my, who are my guests, what my guests believe, and how the show can always be blessed from that perspective. Because that means they prayed before they got on, like I prayed before I got
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that whoever is listening is getting what's necessary. Because I will always believe if we can just help one, it's not
Right.
about helping the millions. If they get it, great. But I'm always looking for the one.
Right.
So thank you for being courageous.
No worries. I appreciate the opportunity. I also want you to know that I believe that this is a God thing because in preparing for today, just some of the questions that I was looking over that came to mind, it helped me to put things in perspective.
Mm,
And it helped me, it even answered some questions I had, and
mm.
it gave me a sense of peace. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I say thank you. And to be honest, you guys, we were going back and forth on this, and she was a little nervous. And I was like, girl, we just be talking on the show. It's not that serious. And she's like, this is my first time. I'm like, oh, well, it's going to be easy. You're going to be like,
Mhm.
oh, that wasn't bad at all when we're done.
Right.
And so I really do appreciate you joining. So let Jesus work. That's all I can say.
That's it.
Um, so when we think about
Hmm.
breast cancer, when we think about domestic violence, and they're super traumatic events, right?
Hmm.
I've experienced both of them in different ways. I've experienced the breast cancer side from my mom having it and dealing with the, caretaker side and, going to all of the appointments. I've also dealt with the breast cancer side with myself being under screening like all the time, having MRIs, having mammograms, and wondering, is today the day?
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
um and on the domestic violence side, I've been on that side. I've been a victim, and I don't even want to say victim because I don't like that word, but I'm a survivor of it. I've been in the position of having emotional and physical abuse within a relationship. So, but the healing part, I think, is always the part that no one talks about. Like everybody says, "Ooh, yeah, yeah, you made it out," or "Ooh,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, you done with treatment." But nobody says, "Well, what's the like? How did you heal through that emotionally? How did you, overcome that from a mental and emotional standpoint?" And I kind of want to talk about it
Okay.
because everybody's journey is different, but the journey is that a journey.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's never ending.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you share? How would you, when you look at the healing process of trauma or in general, I know we're talking about domestic violence and breast cancer as a main staple, but in general,
Hmm.
how do you know that you're on the healing journey from traumatic events in your life?
How do you know that you're on the healing journey? I think, first of all, I believe that it's difficult to understand when you start healing. I think it's just something that you find yourself in a space where it no longer hurts as much as it did,
Mm,
where you are able to function at a different level. Life starts to get a little easier.
hmm.
You're able to operate from a different space.
Okay. So your perception is that it's not a decision per se all the time, that
Correct.
sometimes it just happens. Like you just kind of
Absolutely.
said, you know what? That doesn't bother me anymore. Or, hearing the word
Mm-hmm.
cancer for those that are dealing with the breast cancer it doesn't make my emotions or the hairs on the back of my neck stand up from fear or anxiety.
I think it's a little of both. A little of
Hmm.
both. Yeah. I think it's definitely a process.
Hmm.
For me, and people think it's a little strange when I say this, but I truly believe breast cancer saved my life.
Hmm.
Right? And I didn't know that it was the thing that would save my life when I was going through it. But through different holistic practices and different things that I had to do, that's where I realized, you know what? Yeah. We're getting
When you
there.
say you did holistic practices, that's the title, we holistically healing. What practices did you actually take on, or how did your lifestyle change and things of that nature?
I took on, let's start with food, my diet. I changed my diet. I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating dairy. I stopped eating anything that was estrogen, that pushed estrogen, because my breast cancer was estrogen positive, right? So
Hmm.
I started by changing my diet. Then I also started getting physically, I took better care of myself. I
Okay.
started exercising. I started walking. My faith grew. I knew I needed something to tap into to ground me during those moments where I didn't know what was what, which way was up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hmm.
So those are a few things, and also breath work, working, moving my body, and also mindfulness.
Oh, mindfulness is so big for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's a phrase that I think we use
Mm-hmm.
in our clinical world, right? We use it a lot. It's the new. I call it the new jargon, right? It's like this is the new hit buzzword
Mm-hmm.
of therapy, is mindfulness. But I don't know if the average person understands what mindfulness really is.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help them like get a grasp of, if I say I need to be mindful or have mindfulness techniques, what does that really look like?
Well, mindfulness encompasses movement, sitting with thoughts, and sitting with sounds. That's the way I like to describe it, right? So it's move as far as movement goes. It's that practice of taking time, moving your body, moving that energy, right, and being mindful of the process.
Hmm.
As far as sitting with your thoughts when it comes to mindfulness, I believe that we have to detach from social media, from life, from all the things, the chaos that's going on, and we have to be able to sit with ourselves, sit with our thoughts, and get
Hmm.
grounded again, right? And then
Yeah.
sitting with sound, I think that sound is it's really a tool that I've found for myself and for my clients to be really beneficial in getting them to a space where they can stop and ground. Does that make sense?
Yeah, where they're not thinking, they're not overthinking. They're
Correct.
they're getting stillness. So
Yes.
they're focused on the sound of one sound maybe, and they're
Yes.
just tuned into it. And it's so for me, I always equate mindfulness to intentionality,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Being very intentional about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and
Yes.
the why behind doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, like, sitting with yourself and, being with the sound and things of that nature. Again, I feel like all of that's amazing, but you have to have the intent behind it. Why am
Correct.
I doing this?
Correct.
What am I hoping to get out of it if I sit here for, people tell you to meditate all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go meditate and, just get one with yourself. And it's like, okay, that sounds good, but what am I doing with it? Like, what am
Mm-hmm.
I looking for when I'm done? Am I looking to be at peace? Am I looking to have a clear mind? Am I looking to be able to hear my thoughts, that's not jumbled up? Like, what am I looking for?
Right.
And so I think when we really dive deep into actual like mindfulness, healing, transition, doing something, overcoming
Mm-hmm.
painful events, having a plan for what that looks like is key
Mm-hmm.
versus, I don't want to say willy nilly in it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's really what we're doing when we, just kind of like, and so for me, that
Mm-hmm.
means you have to get a therapist. People say, well, like, why do I need a therapist? Because you need somebody to guide you,
Listen.
because you need somebody who's not attached to what you got going on to give you some level of insight and just a little, push and
Mm-hmm.
accountability.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I personally think that accountability is not voiced in the process of healing.
Mm.
I
Tell me what
think
you mean.
I think that people don't feel like they're responsible for their own healing, that
Okay.
it's supposed to just happen,
Oh,
that time heals all wounds.
okay.
Uh, I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And I, a lot of people say, why you don't believe that? I mean, because technically it doesn't. Like,
Right.
like, and I'm not even trying to be funny, but like, we say some stuff sometimes, and I'm like, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, time heals all wounds. Like, how?
Right.
The wound is still there. If it's like taking a rotten apple and sitting it down and say it's gonna be whole in
Mm.
2 months. No, it's gonna deteriorate even more.
That's right.
The wound's gonna be worse because we didn't patch it up or put it in something to,
Mm-hmm.
preserve what was at least there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think from that perspective, we don't take accountability for our own healing.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I think that accountability is important. I also think that it is important for individuals to want to do the work.
Hmm.
It's important
Absolutely.
to want to do the work and to want to sit with someone and go through that process.
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Healing is work.
Yes. Yes.
Healing is work. It forces you to face a lot of things that you may not have desired to face. Because I think, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, but I think when you say you're healed from anything, you should be able to face that thing
Mm-hmm.
without having a adverse emotional reaction to the thing.
Yes.
And so when people, I think, just want to get over the thing. So I think it's that's two different things for me. Getting over it
Mm-hmm.
and healing from it are two different things.
Yes. Yes.
I can be over something because I don't want to talk about it no more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if we bring it up in conversation and I'm like distraught,
Mm-hmm. You haven't healed from it.
boop,
Yeah. That's where the healing takes place. When, like, just exactly what you said, when you know that the sting isn't as, it doesn't sting as bad as it used to, or you're able to help somebody else through that situation and
that's
not
good
fall
too.
apart. Yeah. That's when you know.
And so I always literally, I say this all the time: your life is not your own,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so everything that you go through is for somebody else. And so when we choose not to heal,
Mm.
when we prevent the healing, we are also affecting the person that's assigned to us for that for whatever we went through to be for them. Like you're messing up the trajectory. Like
Mm-hmm.
and so because your life is not your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think choosing to heal so that you are the whole person that you need to be for the person that's assigned to you for your assignment that you just had
Mm-hmm.
is imperative.
Yes, I think that God has a sense of humor, right? I believe that when I was going through my breast cancer journey, that I literally walked through everything I tell my clients to do. I had to walk through it. And I realize now that I'm on the other side, that life, the experience of it all, me having to go through that is what has equipped me to serve the people that are called to me,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I had to go through it.
Yeah. And I think that most of the time, that's the number one question when you get a client. Like
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist, like, you get a client, they come in, they sit down, and most of the time they want to know, how are you equipped,
Mm-hmm.
or what makes you qualified to do this kind of work with me?
Mm-hmm.
They're all like, that question to me always comes up in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah.
If you're doing couples therapy, or are you married? Have you been through this? Are you struggling with this? Did you ever struggle? And it's more about, how can you relate to what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
than it is, are you skilled?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But they want you to be skilled. That
They want both.
they want both. They
They
want both.
want both. And
Uh-huh.
I think that a lot of times, I always say, you're wondering how I can relate. And I can relate in multiple ways. Like, that's really what I'm going to turn around and say to you, because I'm not supposed to tell you my business.
Right. Right.
However, I understand the need of connectivity
Mm-hmm.
and relatableness, and being able to say, you get it, you understand,
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
do X, Y, and Z. But I also believe that us as therapists should be healed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that there's two parts in for me when it comes to the therapeutic process. It's the clinical part, because I believe that we need to, as therapists, we need to be knowledgeable
Oh,
about what it
absolutely.
is that we are treating. The clinical is the factual part of what we do, right? But as
Hmm.
far as the other part, that's where holistic healing comes in for me when I do the work that I do, because holistic healing, it encompasses everything: physical,
Hmm.
emotional, mental, right? The body, the mind, the spirit, the soul, all of that. And I think that the clinical along with the holistic is a great way to create this synergy
Hmm.
between the therapist and the client. And that's
Yeah,
where, when that happens, that's where the magic takes place. That's,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And it becomes a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes. It's like, have you ever had those moments as a therapist where it's as if time stands still
Yeah,
because you're so connected in the process with your client that it's like this is a space, and you're able to recognize this is a space where miracles can happen, where the true
absolutely.
healing work takes place.
Absolutely. And you're looking forward to it,
Oh
right?
yes.
You're
Uh-huh.
always looking forward to that aha moment. You're
Correct.
always like that's the goal,
Mm-hmm.
is for the client to have their aha moment.
Right.
And so, when in healing,
Mm-hmm.
or is there ever a time in healing where things regress versus progress?
I think it's possible. Life happens, right? And you could be working with a client and they could be progressing just at a speed and a rate that is wonderful. But then life happens and something comes about that helps them to realize where they truly are, number one, in the healing process, and what work still needs to be done.
Hmm.
Um, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me. Okay, okay,
Yeah. So, because we're talking about, can you regress in the like you're healing,
right.
and does regression actually happen? And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when we are in a healing process and regression happens, because as you mentioned, life be lifing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
life just kind of happens, is that it can be a little discouraging,
Yes.
right? Um, the other part of that, I think, that you just mentioned, like, you kind of figure out where you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it may look like a regression, but it also shows up and says, oh man, those skills I thought I had learned when we were
Mm-hmm.
working together like 2 months ago, maybe I didn't really learn them. Maybe I just understood them.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Because a lot of times, we're learning, like, healing is a learning process. You're learning how to do life in your new world.
Right,
Whatever that trauma that came in
right.
and wrecked your world, you still have to live beyond it. And it's not that you get rid of it, right? It's
Hmm.
not like, oh, I want to act like this didn't happen to me.
Hmm.
Or no, it's like, okay, this happened to me. Now, how do I live
Hmm.
through it and heal and grow from it?
Right.
I think ultimate healing is being able to be grateful.
Hmm.
We'll be talking about gratitude next month because of Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
But how do I be grateful for the experience, even though I didn't enjoy it?
Right.
Even though, like you mentioned before, just a moment ago, how you feel like breast cancer saved your life. Like
Hmm.
that's a posture of gratitude,
Hmm.
which can be evident of the healing, because it's like, you know what, that was a horrible thing, but
Hmm.
I'm actually thankful for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it did something for me
Right.
versus to me.
Correct.
And that's when I feel like you have reached the other side or have reached the point of healing, is when you can see, oh, wait, okay. Yeah, I don't quite like the fact that I was in this circumstance and these decisions that I made, for instance, with domestic violence. Like, you're like, oh, I chose that partner. I said yes to that partner. And, how do you get over that decision? How do you get over being a willing participant,
Right.
even though no, you didn't say hit me, no, you didn't say emotionally abuse me, no, you weren't like requesting those negative things. However, you were still a willing participant to be involved with the individual.
Hmm.
And healing beyond that, for me, says, you know what, it wasn't a great decision, but I'm thankful for it, because now I know how to recognize
Hmm.
X, Y, and Z when I go and talk or interact with someone else.
That's right. That's right.
I know what manipulation really looks like now. I didn't
Mm.
know what it looked like back then. I just thought, oh, they just doing that because that's what they, that's how they show love.
Right.
You stop coming up with excuses for people when you heal.
Mm. Mm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that when we're faced with certain challenges in life, it's about how we decide to either embrace it or ignore it,
Hmm.
right? And I think that, like, again, we're talking about healing. I think that the healing comes in, obviously, when you choose to embrace it. It's
Yeah.
just about finding a space where you are open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And holistically, mind, body, and soul. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when we have trauma, we don't realize the effects it have in all of those areas.
Absolutely.
Most of the time we just think, oh, we just need to heal our minds, our thought patterns behind it. but
Mm-hmm.
but your body took a hit too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, truly, I think that things that I went through in life, experience, is what brought that cancerous diagnosis into my life.
The stress.
The stress of it all. The stress of it all. Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely important to incorporate the
Mm-hmm.
body,
Mm-hmm.
as I mean, like, even when you talk about domestic violence, we can easily see the correlation of healing the body. When you talk about breast cancer, that's a
Mm-hmm.
body thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
can see the correlation with healing the mind, because that's a mental shift on knowing that you have this diagnosis that is life threatening
Right.
most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the direct correlation to that. But a lot of times you don't see the direct correlation to healing the body from a domestic violence experience.
Mm-hmm.
All domestic violence is not physical. You have mental, emotional, financial, you have a ton
Mm-hmm.
of different abuse that is directly correlated to domestic violence. And even if it was financial, mental, or emotional, or sexual,
Mm-hmm.
or what have you, the body still went through all of that turmoil along with the mind. And
Right.
so I think having, oh wait, yeah, you gotta heal that part too. You have
Mm-hmm.
to, do something different with
Mm-hmm.
your body as well.
Hmm. I think that comes along with that sitting with yourself. I think that those are the moments where we have to take inventory of our bodies and we have to really think about, okay, so this pain, where did this come from? What is the root of this pain that I'm experiencing? And how can I move it out of my body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you feel that. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
feel, man, when you're going through even the mental of it all
Mm-hmm.
affects the body. You can make yourself sick
Uh-huh.
by having your mind
Right.
out of whack and out of
Mm-hmm.
shape. And as my mama used to say back in the day, discombobulated.
Right, right, right. It's like when you get when something happens and you get this feeling in your gut, you get this stomach ache, your chest starts to hurt. It's a telltale sign that something needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. So when you think about all of those things
Hmm.
and we talking to the listeners, what would you recommend to a listener who is thinking about the healing process? Maybe they like, oh, I should heal. Maybe I don't want, and maybe after listening to us, they like, oh, there's a difference between healing and getting over it.
Hmm.
I've been working on trying to get over it,
Yeah.
versus healing from it. What would you recommend or give them in tips on how to make the decision on if they should heal or not,
Hmm.
followed up with what steps they should take to start the process?
Hmm. First, should I heal or not? The question that comes to my mind is, are you okay if your life was not if your life was not going to change or didn't change from its current state? Would
Hmm.
you be okay? Do you believe that you're in a position to grow, to continue to thrive, to be able to receive all that God has for you if you stay in this space? And if the answer is no, then that means it's time to do some work. It's time to do some work. And a few things that I've come up with, I created a list of things that I think would help an individual in this space, right? First thing is what we in the world of therapy call a crisis and safety plan, right? So
Hmm.
what I mean by that is I would say develop a list of places, people, and things that are positive, that bring
Hmm.
you a sense of safety, that
Hmm.
bring you a sense of peace.
Hmm.
Create that list and let that be your go-to. When you have those moments where you don't know what to do, sometimes we go through some things and we don't know what to do and we don't
Yeah.
want to think about it. If you have this list ready, pull out your list and it's right
Yeah.
there. Second thing would find you a good therapist, and I say that on all my TikToks and my social media stuff. Find you a good therapist. It
Yeah.
may not be me, but find you one,
Yes.
because we all need someone to talk to. And as well as I do, when we were in school, they taught you every therapist needs a
Should have
therapist.
a therapist. And
Yes,
amen.
because we need that space. Second,
Amen.
also I'd say incorporate some sort of spiritual practices, whether it's um whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, whatever. Incorporate something into your life that's going to help you to ground yourself during
Hmm.
those moments, because
Yeah.
like we talked about, the healing process is not easy,
No.
right? And you're going to need things that when it gets a little rough and rocky, that you can use to ground you and bring you back to center, right?
Yes.
And then lastly, I said, find you a hobby or an activity that will allow you to incorporate joy into that sacred healing space, that sacred space, right? Find you something. For me, it's coloring. And I love to color because it brings me back and it connects me to that inner child.
Yeah.
It connects me to that happy space. And finally, now that I've gone through my process and I continue to, I really have become friends with that little girl. And when we color, that's where
We having a real good time.
we're having a
So it's
good
so funny
time.
because I do the coloring, but I do it online on my phone. The little number
Oh, okay.
colors.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like, whenever I'm in a space and I'm like struggling, maybe I can't sleep, maybe I got a lot on my mind, a lot on my plate. I
Mm-hmm.
go to that and I'm like, ooh, I'm in Zen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good now, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you said coloring because I won't pick up no color pencils or crayons, but I do it on my phone, the little color, the
Mm-hmm.
number color thing, and I go find the picture that I resonate with in the
Mm-hmm.
moment and color it. Or if it has to, sometimes it's colors that I need. I need my purples and my pinks and my blues.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go find that picture that has that in it, and so
Yes.
I 100% agree with that.
Yes, ma'am.
100. Well, I am so excited that you joined me, and it wasn't that bad.
Wasn't bad at all. Thank you so much for having me.
And I want you to share with the people who are listening who say, you know what, I do need a therapist, and I actually resonate with Monique, and I want to get in touch with her. I want to see how I can connect.
Mm-hmm.
Share your information.
Okay. Well, the name of my practice is Purposely Aligned Counseling and Consulting, and you can find me on social media. On Instagram, it's Purposely Aligned Counseling. Facebook, Purposely Aligned Counseling. You can always email me for more information at purposelyalignedcounseling@gmail.com.
Awesome. So, y'all heard how to get your healing practices on.
Yes.
But, we are a self love empowerment podcast. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.